Oh, it'll be hard to do this update. This is, most of you know Hurricane Michael, or it's heading into Florida now. This is the Gulf of Mexico. The tides are much higher than normal because of that tropical storm. You know, right before I turned this on, I saw on the ground a little, oh, I don't see it right now, but it's like a little bottle cap and it says love. Right before I turned it on, because I was going to, and I am going to speak on issues. I don't know if you could see, I remade that cross, if you could see it. It's a cross that I had on Facebook. All right, let's do a few. When I fixed that cross the other day, I was out, I dress in black just because I wear black. But when I was out there, I had the cross on the ground. I was tying it because the cross member had kind of fell down. And there was a guy that was coming to fish. They often park right here. The tide's high. And he was going to leave his truck, get on his little boat and launch his boat. And after I got the cross up, I realized maybe he's looking at me out there thinking, oh, he don't know if he wants to leave his truck by itself, launch his boat. And then possibly he saw me erect the cross and then thought, oh, this guy's safe. He's not going to rob me, which I wouldn't. Today's news would be, looks like I'm on the motorcycle, looks like it's going to rain. I posted a link earlier today. There's a Democrat, staunch Democrat, that called for the killing and execution of Justice Kavanaugh. Do you know, just for me to say that, she had a Twitter account. She is a school teacher, I believe, in Minnesota. Do you know there are some social media sites, if you actually reported that there was an execution threat made by a Democrat on a Supreme Court justice, just the reporting of that they would deem hate speech. Meaning, though she was able to put that on Twitter. Now, how Twitter allowed a woman, she basically said, will somebody stand up? And it was quite bold. She has deleted her account. She said, will some patriot stand up and kill that judge? You know, there's so many. I was MSNBC. They have a lot of. There's a guy on MSNBC I never liked. His name is Donnie Deutsch. There's various reasons. He's not knowledgeable. He's not really a media person. He had some type of, you know, he reminds me of the self-help preachers. So I've seen him now and then. I saw a clip of him the last week speaking to a black person. And he said, you know, the problem with the Republican Party is white men. Now, he says that to a black person, sort of like the minorities will say, wow, look, do you ever realize that when you paint any race, if you were to say the problem is black people or Asian people or white men, that in itself is a racist comment. And I know that whole network, do you know, one time I was watching MSNBC a few years ago, and Joe Scarborough, something scrolled across the bottom of the screen. There was an attack on a ship, possibly off Yemen, somewhere in the Middle East. And the news scroll said pirates had attacked the ship. Joe Scarborough, MSNBC, who shouldn't even have been able to write an opinion piece this last week because he's not educated, not in the field of media. Joe Scarborough said live on MSNBC when it said pirate. He read it and he said, well, I'll read it, but this can't be true. He said, but it says pirates. There was a pirate attack on a ship. Now, he was thinking pirates as in Johnny Depp and the Pirates of the Caribbean, not recognizing that any educated news person would understand piracy on the high seas means theft. It doesn't mean they were all dressed up like pirate movies. MSNBC went to commercial, and when they came back, there was no humility from Mr. Scarborough, saying, man, you know, in my mind, I should have called it. I'm thinking pirates had just, when they came back, somebody off during the commercial probably told him, you ignoramus, piracy is a term used when there's theft on the high seas. But no, he just came back. That's the media. That I could imagine, you know, Maxine Waters has still, as far as I know, not drawn back her open call for Democrats. If you see people with the Trump administration, including the Kavanaughs or their families, Waters said, Maxine Waters, a black Democrat, said, you go up to them. If you see them in a restaurant, if you see them in your city, Maxine Waters said, you go up to their family members. She didn't say shoot them or kill them. She said, but you confront them. And if they're eating, you tell them, get out. Your type is not welcome here. Do you know within the last 2 weeks, that happened to Justice Kavanaugh's 10-year-old white daughter? And did Maxine Waters come out and say, don't do it to the kids? What did the Democrats say? There's one online article where a particular Democrat said, we are glad that we destroyed Justice Kavanaugh's life. Even though he got in, we're happy. Now, the mainstream media, even if you had, like tragically, a Democrat try to murder Republicans at the baseball field, you never have them come out and act responsibly. Because even in this very day, even the day where a staunch Democrat openly called for the assassination of Justice Kavanaugh, where his 10-year-old daughter, people have come up to her in accordance with what Maxine Waters had asked. And then you have the Donnie Deutsches of the world who have basically said the problem is white men. You know, one of the greatest civil rights speeches ever given. I'm from the Northeast, and a lot of the MSNBC crowd and all, they pride themselves in somehow being advocates, but they don't realize they're pumping things into society that are irresponsible. Now, why mention I'm from Northeast? My Italian grandmother used to have a picture of John F. Kennedy, and they were so proud. A Catholic man made president. Of course, he was assassinated at that time. But then his brother, Bobby Kennedy, also a great civil rights man, at the time of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., another true liberal, not what you're seeing in the media today, a true advocate for the rights of people, not what you are seeing with the Maxine Waters and that crowd, and the Cory Bookers, who could never stand in the position of Martin Luther King Jr., because Cory Booker plays games. During the hearings, he said, his Spartacus moment, he said, I'm going to reveal certain texts and emails from Kavanaugh, which are secretive, and I might lose my position in the Senate, but I'm going to do it. And he knew the day before that what he revealed was not secretive. It was also released to the public the day before. So he made everybody think he took a true risk for a social justice stand, and he lied. Now, Bobby Kennedy, one of the greatest civil rights speeches, after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Bobby Kennedy was going to a speech running for president, Mr. Kennedy, who too would be assassinated. And he was going to make a speech to a large black audience in an open forum off of the tailgate of a pickup truck. Now, they did not know, and it wasn't a big social media day, so they didn't watch the news yet, and the king was just assassinated. And a lot of people in that open field area where Mr. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, spoke, they did not know that some crazed lunatic actually carried out an assassination on Martin Luther King Jr. And they advised Bobby Kennedy, don't speak. Don't say it. It's going to cause a riot. And if you watch that speech, you can watch it online. I watched it a few years ago. He said, I want you to know tonight, speaking openly, there was some Secret Service here, but not enough if there's a riot. He said, I want you to know that Martin Luther King Jr. was killed tonight. And you hear the crowd, a majority black crowd, in shock. And then Bobby Kennedy appealed. And he said, you know, our response to this should not be retaliation or violence. And he spoke of God. I think he even quoted a scripture. But what you're seeing today, what you're seeing in the media, what you're seeing with the Donnie Deutsches, who say the problem is with white men. What you're seeing with the people that are openly advocating for the assassination and killing of Mr. Kavanaugh. The media is just overlooking all of that, waiting, openly, publicly said this last year. Say if something happens to a journalist. Say if something happens to a journalist, it's Trump's fault. And that crowd, some in that party, are actually calling for the assassination of a Republican Supreme Court, 114 justice. The raging Maxine Waters. You know, one time I went, many years ago, on an ambulance run to Bishop, from Kingsville to Bishop. I think I remember the priest's name. His name might have been Jerome Boos, B-O-O-S. He was a Catholic priest who was terminally ill, fading in health. And I went with the ambulance crew. We went to transport him to the hospital. But because he was real sick and old, and I think he spoke like 7 languages, I've read his obit, he died. But he was mad that we were there to get him. And he made this statement. He said, if we got him, which we had to, and he didn't like us, put him on the stretcher, he said, you will go straight to hell. Now the lady, the nurse taking care of him, maybe a nun, she apologized profusely. She said, you don't understand. And I said, you know, dear, that's fine. I'm not offended. I understand. Because he was sick. He was old. But the little image I had in my mind, no matter how many threats are made against Republicans, how many Maxine Waters called openly to go after those people, protest them, even the children, you didn't exclude them as well. And I could imagine even if you had the killing and assassination of multiple Republicans, both the media spin would be, this is the fault of everybody. Because that's how they played the shooting of Republicans at a base. I'm not a Republican. As a matter of fact, I would align myself much with the values of Bobby Kennedy, who too was killed because radical people who began releasing that type of speech into the atmosphere did not realize that ultimately other unstable people would act upon them. Now, what will all the media outlets do today? They will continue. Why are they to blame? You had accusations made that the justice was a child rapist. The media put people on with unsubstantiated claims. Why is Blaisley Ford's social media presence completely wiped? No Twitter, no Facebook. She had one in the past. It was completely wiped before she knew it would be public. So what would responsible media do today? When you have someone like Joe Scarborough, so uneducated, that an actual piracy on the high seas, he thought it was a piracy. He was too proud to be educated enough to have these pulpits media. We're educated enough that we will not instill violence in people who will take openly to Twitter and other social media calling for the killing of Supreme Court justices. And they won't stop. The media will not stop. They're incapable. What should we do, John? Look, I'm liberal in many views, but I don't think any Christian could ever vote Democrat because you're putting your assent to the travesty of late abortion. You're aligning yourself. So without first and foremost, vote and assent to a party whose platform is we want to continue to kill children in the womb right up until the second of birth, because that's an atrocity. Now, you might not agree with everything on all the other parties, but that thing is bad. And that's their official platform, that they will fight, and they do it with the media. All right? So, the cross is in the back. I was a little nicer because I saw a little sign that said love. If you love somebody, you'll tell them the truth. This is not partisanship I'm talking about. I believe the media reporting. We'll end it, okay? Pirate Joe Scarborough. Maybe I'll name it that.